Hello, my name is Wakasa and I'm a constant stream of consciousness, and today we will be discussing the polarity of social statuses. So, what brought this about? I have my notes. What brought this about was me thinking of the concept of the golden child, a child that is favored by the parents, and then the scapegoat child, the child that is hated by the parents, and how those are almost like opposite positions, but they do sometimes tend to end at like the same point. But like, let me explain. So the golden child is favored by the parent. They can do no wrong, and they're almost like seen as perfect, perfect, perfect. Like, the gold standard, and how gold is first place. So they're first in line for everything. They did the best, so they get the gold medal. The golden child. They can do no wrong and they're perfect. Then the scapegoat child is whatever they do is always wrong. No matter what they do, they will be seen as the bad guy. So either their words will always get twisted or their actions will never be truly appreciated, but pretty much they will be vilified. Now, this does connect to astrology to me, and I did use the tarot cards in my maybe thumbnail. I might have done it because the golden child makes me think of luminaries, which are mostly associated with Cancer and Leo. And this is a motif that I've been discussing a lot recently, and I'm going to be discussing it a bit more before I think Capricorn season is over. But yeah, the luminaries are Cancer and Leo. They are ruled by our two planetary bodies that shine light on the earth. So they bring light. But then I think I uploaded it. I did explain how pretty much our luminary bodies, the sun and the moon, have major gravitational pulls on the earth, so people gravitate towards luminaries. People love luminaries. People love the golden child. People want to be around the golden child. People want favor from the golden child. People want the golden child to feel loved by them. On the opposite side of that, and I do think this shows up in astrology, the opposing side of Cancer is Capricorn. We're in Capricorn season, and Capricorn is considered the sea goat, scapegoat, sea goat. Right. And then I would even say black sheep, the black sheep of the family. And then on the opposing side of Leo is Aquarius. And the reason why Aquarius has some like light imagery, or like has more positive intonations compared to Capricorn, but I think that's a video for another day. What connects Capricorn and Aquarius together is that they are both ruled by Saturn in traditional astrology. And I mean, in modern astrology, technically Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. But back in the day, there were only 7 planetary bodies. Oh, I did the right number. 7 planetary bodies. So Saturn. Saturn. And did I lose my place? I think so, but it's okay. And besides that, I've heard people talk about how Aquariuses have a hard time being liked by people. Like apparently like their minds are like, and this is the thing, people think, right? And I do think that feeds into why people don't like Aquariuses. They think they're so unique and they think they're so out there, and they think their mind is like in the 4D when a lot of people's minds are in the 4D. And I do say this as someone who numerologically connects to Aquariuses, but I've heard Aquariuses comment on how people think it's fun to be an Aquarius until like you get hated on for like no good reason. I know the reason, because I'm a Cancer stellium. So Cancer stellium, Leo moon. So I really gravitate towards like golden child motifs compared to scapegoat motifs. But because we're oppositions, and I had discussed this where like opposing signs are literally the same thing, but like at different like -7, +7. They are the same number, but they're different because they're at like different polars, different sections. They express themselves technically differently, literally opposite, but they are the same number. So like I understand, I'm gonna call them shadow selves, or like shadows. Like if Cancer and Leo are luminaries, I'm going to say that Saturn and Aquarius are like the shadow. They're like, that's what I'm going to call them, but I think there's probably a better example. And I did want to say shadow because a lot of people don't like their shadow self. The shadow self is something hidden or something difficult to address, which comes into like the motifs that I've been noticing about the concept of being a scapegoat, where it's just like it's a difficult placement, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean that it's bad. But I think I just jumped ahead of myself. But pretty much, so I'm seeing, and I said golden child. Okay, so I brought up the astrology where I'm thinking about luminaries and then their opposing signs, which is Capricorn and Aquarius. And I think, especially since Leo, I feel like Leo is the real luminary because even the moon's light comes from the sun. So, like, the real luminary would be Leo. And then Leo's and alchemy, their element is gold, golden child, right? And I do think the tarot card that I used is the sun, and then they have the child on the horse, and they're just so happy and joyful. Yeah, Leo is very luminary to me in comparison to Cancer, but like Cancer is just luminary in a way that if you're not peeping, you won't peep it, but like it is still a real luminary. But yeah, this connects to, so now I'm just going to go down a list of things that I'm just like, these are opposing concepts where you could put one in golden child and then the other one scapegoat child. And really it's like, I'm thinking like the parenthood, like the parent favored this one, the parent doesn't. I'm thinking of how patriarchy, that suffix, is it suffix or prefix? Prefix. That prefix means father. So like under the patriarchy, there are certain types of social identities that are the golden child in comparison to a scapegoat child. So the first one, because I brought up patriarchy, I would say that men are a golden child, women are scapegoat children, or scapegoat. Yeah. So we're going to put this section on gold, this one scape. Man, woman. In the patriarchy, the parenthood, which parent, patriarchy, which parent, which father would favor which child over? Man would be golden, woman would be scapegoat. I would say straight people are golden children, queer people are scapegoats. I would say cis people are golden children, trans people are scapegoats, especially since, I'm going to bring up the scene from Pose when I get to my point, really. I would say rich people under the patriarchy are golden children, poor people are scapegoats. I would say Madonna is a golden children, the whore would be a scapegoat. I would say natural talents, and I do think this is where I'm going to get to my point later. Oh, then we'll get back to that then. Then I would also say technically white people under the patriarchy are golden children, POC people are scapegoats. And this is something that, only because it feels like it would lean into anti-Semitism, that I'm like, I don't think it would be safe for me to even try to have that conversation. But think of how a lot of Jewish, like the way that they get mythologized in spirituality does lean into like Capricorn imagery. And they were scapegoats for the reason why Germany not lost World War One, but why their economy was so bad. Their economy was so bad because they were in debt because of World War One. But then they wanted to say that it was Jewish people who were the reason why their economy was wrong. But then this actually connects to another video that I was talking about. I think I named it The Church, Charity, and Community. When I said to stretch the dollar, when you have a community and you are community oriented and you have multiple hands within, like the money is not your individualist thing. It is part of the community. You share the money with your community. You have more hands on the dollar to stretch it and pull through. So the real reason why Jewish people weren't suffering like the rest of the German population was because they were community oriented and they made sure that their money was specifically catered to their community, not just their individualism. But anyways, scapegoat. They were scapegoated. So like POC people often get blamed for, and you can see it today. I think I did bring it up. I didn't get political, but the way we want to make trans people some like big bad in political theory when they're like less than 1% of the population, which I find shocking because I'm in queer spaces. So I'm like, well, I definitely know more than, I feel like from the people I know, like if I know 10 people, then I know like 20 trans people, but I live in my own bubble. Okay, I live in my own bubble. But then also the way that they want to act like our immigrants, our POC immigrants, are the reason why our crime or our drug problem is apparent. That's not true, but like, yeah, golden child, scapegoat. And then I would also say able body versus disabled body. Okay, so then let's go back to the point that I was saying. Natural talent versus worth ethic. this is where I wanted to really discuss maybe the downside about being a golden child, because often we think, oh, the golden child is loved, blah, blah, blah. But a golden child will realize that, hey, this is my brother. We are literally like the same person. When I talked about how polar, like -7, +7, they are the same thing, but like they're technically opposite. I've heard golden children talk about how they became very aware that if they were to ever mess up or if they were to ever lose favor with their parent, they would end up just like the scapegoat. And they sort of kind of fear that happening to them. And then I also think, because I said polarization, I think that life is just a constant travel between polarizations. And I think that's why a lot of people get very gung-ho about keeping the status quo. Like, let's think the white cis straight man right now has felt like they've been so disenfranchised because the paradigm shift, because that's just what karma is. And this does connect to karma. I think often about how Cancer's sign is like the two claws circulating, and that literally looks like yin and yang. And then how Cancer literally opposes Capricorn, and Capricorn is like the real true sign under Saturn, and Saturn to me connects to karmic cycles and karma. But yeah, and how like technically karma makes the world go round because there's like a constant pendulum swing going back and forth, and like there's like circular motion when you think of like how things have to move, and like going down and up the polarity. So like right now, the reason why I think like it's in one of my scripts from my old laptop. You should totally follow me, and then like and share and comment so that I can build my YouTube, so I can get monetized, so then I can fix my old laptop, so then I can share old scripts. But I was talking about how I just think that karma is just like the constant cycle of life, just moving back and forth, going back and forth, because there's a polarity and you're supposed to be moving up and down the polarity. But yeah, the reason why I think politics have gotten so scary is that I don't think the white cis man or whatever golden child was ever whatever golden child status you had, they were not prepared to realize that that could also become a scapegoat characteristic. But also being a scapegoat isn't bad. But like, let's get back to the point of what makes being a golden child so problematic. It is the fear of losing favor, and also not being prepared to lose favor. Because I do think of like natural talented people, they just go off and do whatever, and they don't have to study or really know what they're doing to make things work. Whereas someone who had to work hard so that they can compete with natural talent had to study, had to learn, had to put in the hours to get to the same level as a natural talent. And because everything in reality will always be shifting, that we cannot stay stagnant. To live is to move, is to grow, is to expand, right? Because that the paradigm will eventually shift, I think a natural talent will not be as prepared as someone with a work ethic to shift, and because they had to learn the ins and out of whatever they were trying to get into, whereas the natural talent didn't learn the ins and out. So the work ethic will be better prepared than a natural talent. And I think golden children, that is their one detriment, for real. Like, because everything came so easy for them, when things get hard, they are so ill-equipped. And then I also wanted to talk about the concept of being exalted, and like fall or detriment or humiliation placements. And I did bring that up on the grandma is the baby video, where I was just like, yeah, like I think life is just a constant like exalted, that's a polarity, humiliation, fall, detriment, whatever you want to call it, is another placement. And we're just all shifting in between both and both, because those are the polarities. And then I would also say the hare and the tortoise. What was it? Great things take time. The hare rushed into it. They could have won, right? And they could have made it to the finish line, but they didn't because they rushed into it, or it was too easy for them. So then they got cocky. Whereas the tortoise just took its time and kept their pace, stayed the course, and they eventually won at the end. And I do think, because I said I'm a Cancer stellium, Leo moon as well, this is something that's been showing up in my life where, ooh, that was the other thing that I didn't write. I think I wrote it back here. Where life has been very easy for me as a child, especially since I was one of the first children to be born into this country. So I do see myself as almost like a family celebrity, which I don't know, ego, like I'll check it. But I did want to bring up the concept of how child actors will age out of their, what would I say? child actors will age out of the public favor, and like they don't really know how to navigate being an adult. And I feel like that's something that's being mirrored in my life. And I do think mirroring is just always going to be a concept for me. I think, especially as someone, I don't know if it's the Cancer in me or the Leo placement. It could be technically both. But the concept of people love you when you're a child, people love you when you're favorable, people love you when you're young and innocent, and also the concept of adoption rates. Adoption rates lower the older a child gets, and the same with like puppies and dogs. It's easier for a puppy to get adopted than a dog. And I just feel like I'm being aged out. And I did like the comparison of puppies and dogs, because I do see dog and cat imagery for Cancer and Leo. And this is the thing. I think Cancer is small cat, Leo is big cat, like lions and tigers, big cats. I also think that Cancer is big dogs, like wolves, and maybe even jackals. I might, or big dogs, like wolves, at the very least wolves. And then for Leo, it's definitely small dog. So like either one is interchangeable. And then I have both of them. So like in a lot of ways, I do see myself very dog-like more. I see myself more dog-like, but then I do see elements of myself that are very cat-like. But anyways, I just feel like I'm aging out of favor from my family because I'm not prepared to be an adult. And I will say yin and yang is another one. I would say yang is the golden child, yin is the scapegoat, because yin is more feminine, and it does seem like in a patriarchy that's male oriented. But yeah, I don't know. Oh, and then I need to discuss why a scapegoat is potentially a better placement. Not really. Everything has its pros and cons, but I do think maybe I know why. If we chose to be here, like if I signed a life contract, then I knew that I wanted to be a golden child. And I'm always going to be a golden child. But at the very least, I should study the scapegoat so that when paradigms start shifting, I'm well prepared, because I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not prepared to be an adult, and I can't be a child forever. Like I'm supposed to grow. I'm supposed to develop past this. I'm not supposed to be stagnant in some I don't know it might be somewhere in an old script, or it might be something that's coming up because I'm working on multiple things all at once. But I said, I think I have mild arrested development. And that's just like the refusal to grow up to some extent, or being stunted, because I don't know how to grow past this. I don't know how to advance past this. I don't know how I don't know how to fulfill karmic cycles completely, because I'm just completely unaware. But what makes a scapegoat maybe a potential really good placement is that life is not difficult. So you just have to learn how to catch up with everyone. And because you had to learn how to catch up, when the ground starts shifting, you're prepared better than someone who came easy. And I did bring up fall and detriment placements specifically because my Venus is in Virgo and my Mars is in Cancer. So I got in my mind, I'm never going to find love. I'm never going to find love. And I was like, no, that can't be the case, because there's multiple people with this placement and they found love, or they're married, they have children. You know what I mean? So like, it's more so that I already acknowledge that it's not going to come easy the way that it is for maybe a Pisces Venus. But also because it came so easy, I would say that Pisces Venuses somewhat struggle with, they have too many options. They don't know, they have easy options. Do they know what's the true option? They don't particularly, that is part of their like karmic lesson, learning how to sift through everything, going through the abundance. And that can be difficult, being bombarded with so much abundance that you have to figure out which one is specifically meant for you. But then for me, it's like I have no options, but then I can't be desperate when an option passes me by. And I do think sometimes I feel like I fumble, but then also it's like, no, they weren't supposed to be my person. So yeah, whatever. But then I think that was it. Oh, then I also wanted to say how I think that's what Saturn is. I think a lot of people see Saturn as a difficult or a bad placement, but it's not a bad placement. It's just like a challenge. Like you just have to study for it. You just have to keep working at it. And for my example, Saturn is in Gemini for me. So I had to learn quickly that I can't say everything that I think. And I do think a lot of people think that I'm always just saying what's on my mind. I keep a lot of stuff locked and loaded, or I have to be very careful about how exactly I say stuff. I've let loose a little bit only because I see Saturn as more like a corset, and you can't wear a corset your whole life. Sometimes you have to let loose. So I think right now I'm in an era of letting loose. But like, I had to learn that I can't get away with saying everything that I think. I can't, like, my words will be twisted in my face, right? And I didn't mean it. So I have to be careful about exactly how I say and how much I say. And I'm pretty good at it. Like, I think a lot of people think that I'm always starting shit. That's accidents. Like, I'm not going to be perfect all the time. And that's part of my lessons where I have to remember, oh, like, I shouldn't have said that. And I did hear that sometimes Saturn Geminis have speech impediments, and I've seen it a couple of times, but I didn't have a speech impediment. I just had to learn quickly what I can and cannot say. So it's like it's a bit annoying because there are some people that it seems like they can just say anything or they can get away with not being as careful with their phrase. Actually, who has that placement with me because we're the same age, and that's like sort of kind of like a 3 year gap in between. Tyla, the pop star, the South African pop star, every time she's gotten herself in a scandal, it's because I don't think she was as careful with her words as she should have been. And as someone who learned it quickly because I had parents that sort of kind of were antagonizing me. I don't know why they were doing that, but I learned quickly I'm just not going to say anything because you're just going to like use my words against me, right? Every time Tyler has said something and she got in a scandal, I'm just like, so we have the same placement. So I see exactly what's happening. You should have either not said anything or learned how to exactly say something. When she went on, well, I don't have to go down her business, but like every time I feel like every scandal she's gotten into is that I'm like, girl, Saturn's knocking on your door. You need to take this test and you keep failing it, but it's okay. It's not my life, but I also know that I'm probably going to be put in situations where it's like, why did you say that? And I'm like, ooh, I didn't mean it like that, but I guess I was not completely careful. And I've seen other people who can get away with not being careful with their words. But yeah, that's how I see Saturn, where it's just like, you are just going to have to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Intentional. You're going to have to be more intentional, more aware than maybe someone who's coasting on life. And I did like the word that I used because I wrote it somewhere. I wrote it somewhere where I said coasting because that's giving water, that's giving cancer. Cancers are very easy, very late. When we want to be, we can also, like, water is an element that can just shift at any moment. And especially since they say when you speak into water, the water crystals shift or whatever based on if you're speaking positivity or negativity into water. If you're speaking positivity because it's a luminary, it's a golden child, yeah, cancers can coast off life. I've coasted off life for the past 23 years ish, and I'm gonna continue to because it's my birthright. But also, when things shift, I don't want to be like completely uprooted and completely confused. Like, I need to be an adult. I don't want to feel like I'm stuck in like some Arrested Development hell. Like, I cannot let that happen to me, especially since I see the celebrities, because I'm going to be some type of public figure. I see the celebrities who have Arrested Development. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't want it that bad. And I would even say Marilyn Monroe. I don't think she has Arrested Development, especially since, well, I sort of kind of explained it. When you're put in a scapegoat situation, you just can't get away with just being like completely oblivious. She grew up as a woman and she also grew up financially impoverished, right? So like, I do think she has mild Arrested Development because someone was discussing what was going on with Michael Jackson and his relationship with children. And they were like, no, he's not giving the same structure as this PDF. He's giving more of someone who's stunted in his age, which does tend to happen to some celebrities or some people who go through traumatic events when they're younger. And I do know Marilyn Monroe is a luminary. I think her ascendant is in Leo. I think that was confirmed in my last video. But yeah, I just think that you should take every detrimental placement that you've ever had, every detrimental social status that you've had with stride, because it forces you to have to learn lessons that other people aren't learning. So you're like sort of kind of more socially aware, socially smarter. I don't know. Like, it's difficult. I feel like if you have the hopes to maybe pass into a golden child, your goal is to become a golden child. That is technically possible because of how we move through the axes. But maybe that's not even really the point. I'm going to stay a woman. What are the other ones? I'm going to stay POC. I mean, I've always been a bit against. Oh, I didn't talk about the post scene. There's so many things that I could have discussed. So the post scene that I think about was when uh, Monique, the tall, dark skinned woman, when she went to a restaurant and there were white cis women like sneering at them, and she went to the table and said, "You got womanhood easily from blah blah blah, all the like different checklists girls go through in high school, but no, I had to work for my womanhood, so I know that I'm a woman." And that's really like what I really do value about the scapegoat, because you work so hard from it. No one can truly ever take it away, because you know you put the time and energy to obtain it. You are the most, not reliable, that's not the word that I'm looking for, but like you are the most authentic that you can be, because you put in that energy, that time. Like, who can tell you you're not a woman when you had to fight time and time and time again to obtain that identity? And I do think about that. Do I think trans women are more women than cis women? No, but I do think that they know themselves better than cis women. Because when you're given the, key to the whole city, you don't really actually genuinely know if you even want the key to the whole city. You just were given that, what do you call it? That privilege. And that when I was talking about what Pisces Venus is in comparison to Virgo Venus, like having to sift through all all the masking of it all just to maintain, like, because I do think a lot of luminaries, or at least a lot of golden children, are definitely masking. And then some of them, that's really their authentic self. Like for me, it's mostly my authentic self. I do have a couple of masks. But yeah, I should learn to edit. I know how to edit. I need to get the discipline to edit. But thank you so much for watching. You should totally follow me here. You should comment. You should like. You should follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. And I have a Substack. So thank you again. Bye.